I want to very welcome you to our Eoh-for-Good space, Eoh-lution. Is a place where we invite very interesting, innovative, and happy people in the world. And we had the chance to meet and to know each other. And we know that we can collaborate and do many things together. So that's for us a pleasure having you with us. And I will give you the floor so that you can introduce yourself and tell us very briefly who you are and what are your main interests so that we can start our conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm an economist trying to introduce innovative policies for climate change mitigation and adaptation. I was involved in eco-neighborhood attempts, and both from the bottom up and from the top down, try to find the funding, the ideas, putting the stakeholder on the table, collaborate with them in different settings, especially in the Mediterranean and in Switzerland level, including an eco-neighborhood near Rome, as well as a project of urban renaissance in Bergamo. And more recently in Switzerland for several cities, I'm participating to their transformation towards more sustainability. In particular, thanks to this experience in Switzerland and also for the previous experience, I coordinate a group of living labs across Europe committed to energy and environment. So the Energy Environment Working Group of the European Network of Living Labs. And in this capacity, we are approaching stakeholders, both at the global level, including the UNFCCC, as well in their conferences, as well as at the European level with a document that was accepted and endorsed last year for involving living labs of different types of living labs in the zero pollution ambition, which extend the zero emission ambition to all types of chemical contamination and the traditional environmental issues.
Wow, that was a presentation. So how did it start?
Having multiple sites help connecting with multiple worlds. And it was already established many years ago from Reich. It was said that the future requires people that speak different types of languages. The language of science. I'm first of all an economist, so I use the word and the word of the economy, economics, in a moment in which we are renouncing to equations and we are going to simulations based on computer. And I published in year 2000 a book, How Macroeconomics is Changing Thanks to Computer. So we can simulate how different actors and can dynamically produce disequilibrium dynamics.
How do you start it to bring different people together into the proto living lab?
I think that a typical condition was a European project.
This is something we are not used to do, involving so many people in anonymous way and having a person or a group of people that find the win-win situation for each of the actors involved is not easy. And this is something that our society has evolved in a way that each of us is more interested in our own things.
Having the cities where everything is complex, everything is multi-dimensional, everything is multi-actor, focused on some win that are not there. They are crucial. But if every roof or in a city would have a solar panel, then you have a political majority also for electric mobility, because obviously they can connect the two. And again, for heat pump, you would have a much cheaper things. So I think that the breeze-free transitions in cities, the rooftop PV, electric mobility, both private and public transport electric mobility, the heat pumps and the insulation, as well as what they call urban forestry. Forestry is too much, but it's not a jump. It's just to have a lot of small green places in which you can really have low heat in the heat island, breaking down also the heat.
We have lots of data. That's not the problem of the data. We have lots of scientific knowledge. It's not a problem of that we are not warned about what's the problem and what are the consequences that this not acting would bring us. We have policies. I mean, we have the Green Deal, we have the twin transition, we have at the European level all these policies. We are talking about the triple transition, not only the twin, but the triple, with the social driving the wheel of the transitions, that the complexity that we are just need to address. So the question is why we are not collaborating, why we are not doing the right things all together. Because,
I think that each community, for the reason of consensus, you keep open and talking about options that are very different in maturity. So, for instance, in the field of energy or mobility, there is electric vehicles, trains, and hydrogen. These things are completely different maturity stage. Trains exist and are electrified since 150 years, and the 150 years demonstrate that they cannot substitute cars, because they were there before the cars, actually. So they are crucial backbone for between cities. So obviously they have a crucial route development, but we go with that. But in terms of saying public transport, and without electric vehicles, private owned, it is completely against what history told. And even the most advanced country in the world that export trains, which is Switzerland, together with Japan, they have not eliminated cars. So we have a lot of learning. However, it's not enough. And hydrogen is completely non-material. And so first, we need to be very clear that there are few technological trajectories that make sense right now, that have the potential to change the thing, and which is public transport and in the cities, especially if electrified, not polluting, because nature does not look at the ownership of the means of production. It seems wherever you have a diesel, wherever you have combustion, you pollute. So you cannot have a bus and say, oh, it's public, so it's good. No. It needs to be electric. And so the electrification of transport is absolutely central, and hydrogen is losing time.
What we are lacking, I think, is this type of person, this profile that is pushing this change altogether. This change is urgent, but when you have to put people to work together and to first to find who is aligned and who has the will to do things. I think when you explain and you motivate people, people react and they are committed. But we need to find these profiles of people that are the game changers or the agents of change, as we call in Eoh-for-Good. And maybe you can give us some ideas of what are the traits that these people should have. Do you have any idea on how we can portray these agents of change?
I think that there are some institutions like Living Labs or certification by ENoLL that gives you a very high probability of finding agents of change. I think that we might work, obviously, on the detection in LinkedIn of people. Look for people in companies that could become the new director. I think that if we were to have these tools in LinkedIn, we could gather the communities. And sometimes we animate. I'm the animator of the Swiss Social Sciences and Humanities Energy Research Group.
The question here is, how do we translate these big plans? The Sustainable Development Goals, we know, cannot be applied at the local level very easily, and they don't apply to all the realities for sure. And there is a big discussion on how to do that. How we translate these plans for specific communities, specific contexts, specific needs, so that we have a clear roadmap that is negotiated by a number of this coalition of willings, and this entrepreneurial spirit, the agents of change, so that this can match in a moment or in a moment in history and in a specific place. And you were talking about the matchmaking place, platforms, etc. So there are a number of elements that we need to put together for these things to happen. How do we translate these big, ambitious, maybe overwhelming plans for the change into concrete plans for the communities?
You have the global trend and local interpretation, and then you need a lot of local knowledge. It is local experts and local, which are typically the same citizen, and not they are experts of the environment. And so you need to have the local group that does this, but you have also the horizontal learning from other communities that are similar to me, and this has always been a mixed bag. So basically, you need to have on one end clustering regions and cities in relatively similar groups, so that you have what I called in a chapter of my book the benchmarking club of groups of situations that are very similar in terms of objective terms, but they turn out to have different levels of success. So you can learn from each other from relatively similar context.
And scaling up of the things that can be transferable, that's very needed. And we need, again, this synthesis from the people that are in the processes, so that we reflect on what we are living and we learn by doing, but also these feedback loops, learning loops, that we go back to what we have experienced, and then from there we extract what you were saying. So what was working, what was not working, what can be improved, what can be exchanged with others, so that we, when we bring more diversity into the things that we are doing, then we realize that things can be done in a different way. I would like to ask you about the something we are trying to boost, that is the next generation of living labs, these quadruple, quintuple helix living labs.
A living lab approach with a lot of techniques that basically solve conflict. Because in living labs, we are not only taking stakeholder in, of course we do. It's not only that we take the voice of the normal citizen in, which is a total change for many communities to see normal citizens interact with them, and they may have resistances. But we have methods and techniques to solve the conflict that arise So I think that we are the high tech of social interaction. The social interaction right now across countries, across disciplines, across people is a key topic. And Living Labs have elaborated tools to manage this. And conflict management will be one of the key aspects that Living Labs can enter in, especially when we are talking about cities which are places of conflict, but naturally because they are very dense, a lot of different interests, but they exist because they are complex. If you like a simplicity, you go to the countryside, you have the monoculture, you have your own bananas. Okay, that's simple. Although probably unequal between the farmer and the big owner of the Chiquita company, right? So still there, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but at least it's monofunctional. Whereas the cities, by the own definition, thrive because people having and producing different things meet in the market, like in Marrakesh, and they bring all type of things and in the bazaar. So multiplicity is the essence of a city, and in that case, obviously, the type of additional facilitation that Living Labs as one of the many tools of the transition. We need such actors that add to the complexities, but try to have a partial significant win, because we need good example, we need success story, and we need to build on them.
We need to really come to a democratization of making these ecosystems more transversal, quicker in the change, efficient, but also inclusive. So there are many things in the equation that makes this complexity, bringing Living Labs as one of the type of platforms.
So, finalizing, I think that for urban issues, in cities are typically slow-moving bodies with the results of many different will. The type of acceleration that climate change mitigation and adaptation will require from cities requires a jump in the capacity of cities of moving fast and transform around a few sectorial issues like rooftop PV, electric mobility, urban forestry, and the quality of mobility, as well as in this a multi-sectorial, multi-purpose tools like the Living Labs allow to select the right people doing the right thing, and be a crucial aspect for the common good, not immediately being a stakeholder with a stake specifically for their own existence and self-interested. It is the altruistic aspect of Living Labs that need to be emphasized in order to build value for the city, for the environment, for SDGs.
So if I ask you, what is, in your opinion, a successful innovation ecosystem, a successful urban settlement, what would you say in one or two sentences?
Zero carbon, high happiness place, which has been designed by the same people that live there, strongly supported by the rest of humanity.
How would you define in two phrases the positive impacts of an innovation ecosystem like this?
I think a speed of change is the key positive impact that we can do. Change will happen. Temperature will continue to rise if emissions are not zero. So earlier or later, the disaster, the inhabitability of the land will force that we go to zero. But the problem is at which time in the future. The earlier, the better. So I think that reducing the time, compressing the time in this critical decade, moving away from fossil fuels in the energy systems. I'm quoting, of course, the Dubai Consensus.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's very clear. And the last one, just give us one example, one strategy that you suggest that can foster collaboration between companies, entrepreneurs, academia, and policymakers and society.
Ask that children, that school, to dream for the whole city with the same speed. What else? What differently we can do?
So that was very, very enlightening, Valentino. Thank you very much. Maybe
I'm actually thankful to you and to your colleagues as well.